Talk Nation. What's up, everybody? See if somebody jump up in here or not. Man, we're gonna talk about that Spence Ugas fight, Ron Bucenis versus the world, and whatever y'all want to talk about. See if somebody go pop up in here before we get this jumping.
We got some breaking news. That boy Errol, the truth, Spence, current WBC IBF welterweight champion of the world, Yordenis Ugas, current WBA champion. These two fantastic competitors are going to collide April 16th at the Dallas
Cowboys Stadium.
And you guys ain't gonna hear me say the Cowboys that much.
Because we Eagles fans over here, baby.
Fly, Eagles fly.
But this gonna be big though. Errol going back to the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. You know what I'm saying? You know, Jerry Jones, you know, he happy about that. More revenue, more fans in the seats. I wonder if he's truly a fan of boxing, man. I really want to know that. Because we all know he's a fan of money. And that's what Errol Spence generates.
Southpaw, Orthodox, Cowboy style, American style, Cuban style. Man, this fight is going to be super explosive.
Yeah, this fight is going to be super explosive. I mean, Errol Spence brings good things to the table. Some very good things, man. So does Yordenis Ugas.
Fantastic, in my opinion, one-sided victory over Danny Swift Garcia.
But all the things that Errol Spence brings to the table, a lot of people think that he's just going to go in there, man, and do what he got to do, get Ugas, up out of there, and that's going to be it, man. But I don't think it's going to be at all for Errol Spence, man. I think it's going to be a tough fight, man. Because the same weapons that Errol possesses, that gives a lot of people problems. Ugas has those same weapons, man. You know what I mean? Especially the jab. The jab is going to be, in my opinion, that's going to be the defining punch between these two. Who can be effective with their jab? Spence. If you look at the last fight with Spence with Danny Garcia, the whole fight predominantly was like Errol was just pop, 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 catching Danny, man, offsetting Danny. You know what I mean? Putting that jab in his face, But at the same time, Danny Garcia, he really wasn't doing much. Danny Garcia is known to be a great counterpuncher. You know what I mean? Sometimes he do a no-look counterpunch. That's his style. But none of that was effective when he fought Errol Spence. Errol Spence had him at the end of the jab the whole night, man. After the fight, you saw Danny's face. It looked like Danny was in a damn car accident. You know what I mean? I love Danny Garcia, and they're in the same city. But at the same time, you got to respect from your city. But you also got to be real to yourself and to the sport. And Danny Garcia, he just didn't do enough in that fight in order for him to even have a chance of not only winning, but getting his hand raised at the end via decision. It just wasn't happening. And that's crazy because when Errol fought Sean Porter. Danny Garcia was damn near front row. You know what I mean? Saying, you know what, man, if I catch him with some of the same shots that Sean Porter was catching him with, it's going to be a totally different fight. Guess what? The fight happened because you know Errol Spence, he heard the comments, and he probably looked at him and Derrick James, man. They looked at Danny Garcia like food. Like, really? Okay. Bring it on. And look what happened. The fight came, the fight went. It's not even a fight in Errol Spence's career that's worth bringing up to talk about because it was competitive, it was action-packed. No. And Danny Garcia, that's not a fight that he wants to bring up because he got pummeled in that fight. You don't want to talk about that fight at all because there's nothing good that you can say about that fight. He tried to rally in the end of the fight, but at the same time, it just wasn't working. He didn't do enough throughout the fight to garner any kind of traction at all. Hey, go to the channel, man. Check out the latest short, man. Jaron Ennis. I mean, Boots is on both these guys' heels, man. You know what I mean? He has a fight date coming soon. And depending upon, because I don't know what Terrence Crawford does. Nobody does. He's a free agent now. We all know he left Bob Arum. You know what I mean? Damn near on Bob's birthday, too. So, you know what I mean? That's a hell of a birthday present. But after Bud left Top Rank, he's a free agent. So he can pretty much do what he want to do. He'll go to Mikey. Hopefully he doesn't go to Mikey Garcia route, man, and just pretty much shelves himself. And just, I hope he doesn't do that. I hope he really is trying to look for and put together viable fights while he's possibly waiting to see who's going to be the winner of Crawford versus Ugas, Now, you saw what Keith Thurman did to Mario Barrios. The talk of the town is after the fight, is Keith Thurman going to possibly fight the winner of Ugas versus Spence? Now, what about Crawford? Because that's an undisputed fight right there. So you can't put Keith Thurman in front of Terrence Crawford. Now you heard whisperings of Spence saying that, you know what, after this fight, Terrence Crawford is next. I haven't seen personally, unless I missed it. You guys let me know. Spence saying that, you know what, after this fight, Terrence Crawford is 100% next to line, you know what I mean, for an undisputed matchup. That should be the talk. That should be what's happening. But end of the day, this is boxing. Nothing happens as we want it to happen. Let's see if we can find out. I don't know if y'all heard that, man. That's my bad. Now, I mean, Sean Porter's a funny guy, man. You know what I mean? Now we heard, before we get into that, man, we heard Sean Porter talking about when he was talking to Fight Hype, and I talked about this already, man. Go back, visit the channel, man. Check out the video. And Sean Porter was kind of a sucker for that, because how can you go from praising Jaron Ennis to saying that he's overrated? And he kind of went and tried to blame it on the fans or what other people were saying, talking about how Jaron Ennis will wash everybody. Look, I said it myself. And Jaron Ennis can beat anybody in the division, especially the top five. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be an easy fight, and I never said that he was going to watch these guys, but he most certainly has the tools to beat Crawford, Spence. I mean, he does. You know what I mean? Sean Porter said that damn near everybody in the boxing world said that it's not going to be an easy fight. It's going to, especially when you're talking about, you know what I mean, Spence and Crawford, because both of these dudes are intelligent, technical, and they have power. Especially Terrence Crawford, he puts his punches together well, and Bud does have deceptively good movement. But I think Jaron Ennis also has great movement, and he's better on his feet. And with he does offensively, he can not only offset a lot of things that Terrence Crawford does, but he can match a lot of things what Terrence Crawford does. Now, Errol Spence, that great jab of his, Jaron Ennis is too slick. He's not going to be able to catch Jaron Ennis like he was catching Danny Garcia and Mikey Garcia and a lot of his other opponents. He's not going to be able to do that with Jaron Ennis. Jaron Ennis, his head movement and his body movement and footwork is too good. You know what I mean? He may get caught. Everybody gets caught, man. This is boxing. But the accumulative effect that Errol Spence puts on his opponents because of his pressure and his punch output and his jab, he's not going to be able to demonstrate that against Jaron Ennis. He's not. And that's what makes that a difficult fight, because after a while, Jaron Ennis is going to start to pick him apart, and boots get stronger as the rounds go on. So if Errol Spence wants to make that a patient fight, that's going to work, in my opinion, you know what I mean, to the benefit of Jaron Ennis, because he's going to get points on Errol Spence. He's going to get points on Errol Spence. Now, Sean Porter breaks down Errol Spence, Yordenis Ugas, man. This is on Fight Hub. A lot of you guys probably seen it. Now, as these guys talk, we gonna break this down.
What do you make of that fight, Sean? How do you see it? You fought Ugas and you fought Errol Spence. What do you make? Who comes out on that one? 100%.
And he did fight Ugas and he did fight Errol Spence. This is Sean Porter. But arguably, man, a lot of people thought Yordenis Ugas beat Sean Porter. And he was giving Errol Spence work until he got caught. You know what I mean? He didn't get knocked down, but his glove did touch the mat. And we all know your glove touched the mat. That's the knockdown.
There's a ton of things I've gone through, and I've literally put them aside and handled my business in the boxing ring. And I think that if Errol Spence Jr. can do that, that means he's 100%. That means he wins when they fight. They're fighting in April, right?
Yeah, April in Texas at the AT&T Stadium.
Okay. Yeah, it's exactly what I was expecting.
A big crowd over there.
We have a network?
It's the weird thing there. We don't know what's going on there. I think I have a little insight. You probably have a little insight too on some of the stuff that's happening. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It looks like it's gonna go to the highest bidder.
Let's not get fired here.
Yeah. What makes the fight tricky for Spence, and what makes the fight tricky for Ugas, in your opinion?
Now, before Sean Porter gets into what makes the fight tricky for Ugas and Spence and all that, like I said, in a lot of ways, these guys both possess a lot of the same tools. But the Cuban style of Ugas is going to give Spence problems. Ugas good at spacing his jab, and he does one thing good also that Errol Spence does. He can parry his punches. He knows how to shift punches off of his gloves and off of his forearms when he's in guard.
Now has opportunity. I probably shouldn't put a crack at him. Ask him, take some more time. Like, kill some time.
All right. Get some water, Sean. Clear it all out. But looking at this fight with Errol Spence and Yordenis Ugas,
did like a whole bunch of orange come at you?
But to you, what makes the fight tricky for Errol Spence, and what makes the fight tricky for Yordenis Ugas?
We've had the opportunity now to see Yordenis Ugas use two different styles. Prior to fighting Pacquiao, we only saw him use one style. It was an aggressive, body attacking, not much boxing from the outside.
Stick with that
A lot of
jab.
strength and power, not much speed, not much quickness. No
He was
quick
touching
movement.
Pacquiao a lot with the right hand too,
That's what we saw
off of the
when
jab.
he fought Pacquiao. We saw him use the jab. We saw him. I saw him calculate his range, the distance. I saw him ready for everything that Pacquiao was going to come with, offensively and defensively. He kept Pacquiao guessing all night. There were moments where he was defensive, then there was moments where he was defensive counter, and then there was moments where he was punch right back.
Well, let's put the brakes on real quick. Now, I said this before. Manny Pacquiao, he was training and conditioned to fight Errol Spence Jr. I said this before. Think about it. Manny Pacquiao, mind, body, and spirit, he was trained, prepped, and ready to fight Errol Spence. I think it possibly will wind up being the war, man, believe it or not. And despite what people think, Pac-Man does have a chin, so everybody thought that Errol Spence was going to go in there and put Manny to sleep. No. Ugas caught Manny with some shots. Keith Thurman actually caught Manny Pacquiao with the Marquez shot, and Manny ate it. You know what I mean? Look how many fights it took and rounds it took for Marquez to finally land that shot. And I told you guys before, if you want to catch Manny, you got to catch Manny when he flipping and flopping and when he bouncing in. You know what I mean? And that's what Marquez, that's what he did. He caught Manny Pacquiao when he was jumping in and got on a nice angle, literally right on the side of Manny. And he had the perfect, you know what I mean? He had the perfect shot lined up and caught Manny right on the chin, put him to sleep.
With you, he showed a lot in his fight against Pacquiao. And what I'm wondering is, given the time that he has to prepare for Errol Spence Jr., I know that they should, that Silas and Yordenis Ugas should be well prepared for Errol Spence Jr. But what style are you going to use? I think the aggressive style works in Errol Spence's favor because Errol wants you to throw with him. Errol wants to punch in between your punches. Errol's strong, and they both guys believe in their power. I would give a toe-to-toe match to Errol Spence Jr. because
his body attack.
When they both use that style, I've seen Errol punch, step around, punch, be defensive, get around, things like that. Yordenis using that inside fighting style. He's cover, punch, cover, punch. Errol Spence wins that fight. Now, if you try to fight Errol from the outside, use your jab, try to stop him from catching your rhythm and your timing and things like that, you buy yourself some more time, but then now you give Errol Spence Jr. a time to calculate what's going on, where to hit you. You give him time to set up and all that kind of stuff. I really think that this is Errol Spence Jr.'s fight. And
I think it's tricky because Spence is highly active with the volume punching, and his jab is very highly active. And if you're in Ugas, you got to think like what you just said. Okay, is it more beneficial for me to fight Errol on the inside and try to push it back, or catch him in between some of these punches? And I'm even now I'm thinking like, okay, what would be the most advantageous for Ugas? It's like they might say like, well, you got to feel him out and maybe mix it up, but maybe try to make him think twice about throwing the jab and push him back. But Errol's very good on the inside.
He's got to mix it up. I think that's the number one thing Yordenis Ugas has to do is mix it up. I think that one style all night won't win him the match. If I had to pick which one he should do more of, I would say he should start with countering from the outside and then working his way to the body. I think that countering.
Now, with that said, Yordenis Ugas is not known as a puncher. Errol Spence does throw light combinations, but in this fight, I think the guy that comes into this fight and can throw combinations, especially I would say 3 to 4 shot combinations, use his movement, get up out of there, get back on defense. I think that's going to be the guy ultimately who wins the fight. Now, Errol Spence, as I said, he does have deceptively good footwork. He cuts off the ring very well. But so does Ugas. So who's going to be predator and who's going to be the prey in this fight? Is it going to be a 50-50 thing? Both guys are going to take turns, you know what I mean, in each other. We shall see.
Will present or force Spence to think. It will force Spence to possibly hesitate a little bit, and then from there, getting to the inside, where Yordenis works very well on the inside. And then you won't give Errol Spence the range that he needs to get off his power shots. You work on the inside, out hustle Errol, and then you get back to the outside. So it's that's why they call it chess, and that was kind of.
Now, when Sean makes comments talking about what Errol needs to do, to me it seems like talking about his fight with Errol Spence, because that's what Sean Porter did. He mixed it up because Sean Porter is a factor. He's a very, active. He's in and out, very sporadic movement, you know what I mean? Very sporadic footwork and punch output, uses very sporadic angles also. And that's what gave Errol Spence a lot of problems in that fight. It took Spence a little minute to get the timing, to get the distance, the range, and the patience down to catch Sean Porter with that shot. Now, Yordenis Ugas, he isn't that same type of fighter. Now, with the tools that he has, he's not going to be able to do the same things that Sean Porter did, but he's going to have to go to the body, utilize his range. And I think the range aspect is going to be automatic because of the range that both of these guys already possess by having fantastic jabs. So I think the range aspect is going to be automatic. That's already going to be built into the fight. But who's going to be able to do it on a more effective level? You know what I mean? And that's where cutting off the ring using your footwork is going to come into play when Yordenis Ugas and Errol Spence clash.
One of the things I love most about it, especially the fight with Errol Spence, I felt like that was a thinking fight, a mental fight, and I felt like for a majority of the fight, if not the entire fight, I was able to outthink him.
The thing that what you just said.
Boom. Now, y'all just heard Sean Porter said that he outthought Errol Spence in that fight. And I can't necessarily agree with that. I think Sean Porter's movements, his activity, his energy really was, I'm not going to say the determining factor. Excuse me, y'all, but I think that's what took Errol Spence a little bit of time to catch up. And like I said, get his timing and his range and everything down. I don't think it was a cerebral aspect. I think it was more of a physical principle between Porter and Spence. I don't think it was mental, because Errol is a very calculative and smart fighter. So I don't agree with Sean Porter said that.
With Ugas, I think the big thing then it's going to be like how Errol feels that power, because if he feels like, okay, I'm not in too much danger, Errol's going to, I think,
can he take Ugas' power?
He's trying to counter him, be like, okay, I'm just going to press forward on this guy and not give him any space to counter me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The one that comes to mind for me is Andre Ward. Prior to Ward, I had never really seen or heard the tactical approach of going toward the power. That was what I learned from Dre, watching him do his thing. And the thing is, it's like everything in life is easier said than done. I think that's one thing that's easier said than done. You're saying, hey, go to the power, but along with going to the power, you have to be able to release some power yourself. You got to be able to release the right punches at the right time, and then get off the line the right way to alleviate the power that's coming at you. So I think it's a competitive fight. I think it's going to be an interesting fight, but I think Errol Spence is going to win this. I think that Errol's just got a little bit more in his arsenal. Again, I was just so.
Now, as you guys heard, Porter believes Errol Spence is going to win this fight. Now, I'm not picking a winner right now because Ugas has garnered the right to be called the upset king. I mean, this dude, he went in there, you know what I mean? And like I said, in my opinion, he beat Sean Porter. Sean Porter thought that he was going to go in there and do what he did to Spence to Ugas. Wasn't able to do that. Ugas had an answer for all that. You know what I'm saying? Ugas, he neutralized a lot of what Sean Porter brought to the table. That's why when the Spence fight fell through Manny Pacquiao, and then Yordenis Ugas, his opponent fell out dramatically. And then the fight between Manny and Ugas was called to find out theoretically who's the rightful WBA champion. Now, I knew this fight wasn't going to be an easy fight for Manny because of what Ugas did to Sean Porter. Because although Manny Pacquiao and Sean Porter are two different fighters, their sporadic mobility and energy in the ring complement each other. That's why if those two guys were to fight, that fight would be all over the place. Maybe that's why it never happened. Maybe that's why Sean Porter or Manny Pacquiao never won it. Now, Ugas, that's, like I said, that's going to be a tight fight, in my opinion. Now, if Ugas can land a power shot on Spence and Spence can take his power, that's going to determine a lot in that fight. It really is. Because we haven't seen Errol Spence shaken up too many times in fights. We've seen him take shots, but we have never seen him definitively hurt by an opponent. If Ugas can go into that fight and hurt Errol Spence, and everybody knows that Errol Spence is hurt, now it becomes cerebral. Now Errol Spence is like, damn, he just caught me with some shit. I'm hurt. You know what I mean? I don't want to get caught with that again. So now this when game plans go out the window and plan A goes into plan B or plan C. We have to see that in this fight. We have to see that from Yordenis Ugas if he's able to do that. And also, that's vice versa. So if we're able to see that from Ugas, that's going to determine a lot in how this fight will not only balance out, but also ultimately wind up ending. So let's switch gears real quick. Talking about Sean Porter. We're going to talk about briefly Sean Porter and Jaron ENNIS, because after you heard, some of you guys may have not heard, him calling Jaron ENNIS overrated, you start hearing whispers of possibly Sean Porter wants to come out of retirement to fight Jaron ENNIS to prove a point. You know what I mean? Now, I wouldn't agree with that fight, because Sean Porter, he said it himself on his own podcast, the Porter Way podcast. Shout out to the Porter Way podcast. Shout out to Sean Porter. Even though you was a sucker for making those comments, you know, I'm basically going back on your own words. I still ride with Sean Porter. I still like Sean Porter and his pop, Kenny Porter. Shout out to Kenny Porter. But him and Boots, he already said, man, he don't want no smoke with these young dudes, especially Boots. So for him to possibly, theoretically, come out of retirement to fight Jaron ENNIS, I don't think it's going to happen. You know what I mean? You already heard Boots say, you know what? Fight me. Come out of retirement and fight me. That pretty much says it all for me. That takes all the guessing game, all the Twitter sparring and all that kind of crap, putting up posts on Instagram and all that. You know what I mean? It takes away all of that. Come out of retirement and fight me. Ain't nothing else to talk about. And see, that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Forget all the talk, man, because at the end of the day, talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. Send the contract. And we all know when it comes to Jaron Ennis, he wants smoke with anybody in the welterweight division, especially the top 5. Because in the top 5, top guys, Spence, Ugas, let's just say Crawford, because they are title holders, he wants those fights because they have the hardware. They have the hardware. Now, we're going to see how Spence and Ugas turns out. We're going to see that. But Terrence Crawford is in the waiting. Now, is Bud waiting for the winner of this fight so he can, put his bid in? Because the rightful thing to do, if Spence happens to get past Yordenis Ugas, is fight Crawford. Get it out the way, man. Everybody been asking for it. Now, you know what I'm saying? You done picked up the WBA title, complete the set, fight Bud, become undisputed. You know what I'm saying? Will that happen? It should. Now.
But essentially, yeah, that's it. I think that's probably the wrong term to use is overrated.
Now watch how. Hold up.
Yeah, man, that's I
watch how Sean Porter
what I meant.
Try to play damage control.
I said it on the Porterweight podcast. But essentially, yeah, that's it. I think that's probably the wrong term to use is overrated.
Unproven, maybe?
Yeah, maybe unproven. However, I feel like he's proven.
Pause that. Now, I told you guys before, and this goes for Jaron Ennis, and this goes for Terrence Crawford. Because a lot of people say, you know what, Bud, he's unproven. Shout out to whoever just came in the chat, man. Salute. Whoever says that Terrence Crawford isn't this, isn't that, how can you say these guys are not this or not that when nobody is stepping up to fight them? Jaron Ennis has repeatedly called out anybody in the top 10, anybody, especially the top 5. As I said, these are the dudes with the title. He already called them out. Now, if you send him a contract, Boots, he walks around with a pen. Boots is always ready to sign that contract. Boots wants that smoke. Everybody knows this. So for Sean Porter to say that Jaron Bruce Ennis is overrated, and he further stipulated once he went on Fight Hub TV, because, quote unquote, he came to that, quote unquote, affirmation because of what people were saying. Jaron Ennis will watch these dudes, this, that, and the third. So why are you basing an opinion off what other people say? Especially when you already said yourself how nice Jaron Ennis is, how dangerous he is, this, that, and the third. But then you want to go back and say he's overrated? I mean, come on.
And then people
listen.
There's a couple of things. I said what I said and I meant what I said. When I said the word.
Now, real quick. He said, I said what I said and I meant what I said. So if you said what you said and you meant what you said, why are you going on Fight Hub and fight doing damage control? If you said what you said and meant what you said, that's it. You don't have to go back and rewind and backtrack and say this, that, and the third, especially when Jaron Ennis went right to Twitter and he said what he said. And I love that, because I ain't gonna say it was short because it was a nice little paragraph. But at the same time, he said this: if it's this, that, and the third, you come out of retirement and you fight me, period. And keep in mind, Sean isn't that far removed from the sport that he can't come out of retirement and still fight. You know what I mean? He's not that far removed from the sport. Now, if you've seen recent shots of Sean Porter, you see Sean Porter, man. Sean Porter, he looking a little bit, you know what I'm saying? He looking a little thinner, you know what I'm saying? Like he's been possibly training. Now, I'm telling y'all, if Sean Porter comes out of retirement and fights Jaron Ennis, man, not only would that be huge and a huge fight, but I'm telling y'all, mark my words, Y'all seen what Yordenis Ugas did to Sean Porter. And everybody thought arguably, Ugas won that fight. I'm telling y'all seen what Boots did to Lipinets? The same thing is going to happen to Sean Porter. He is going to make Sean Porter look like a different fighter. He's going to make Sean Porter look basic. I'm telling you, what Boots can do, him being able to switch, and I told you guys before, I'm telling y'all, salute, and I appreciate whoever that is. I'm telling y'all, who, look, listen real close, and I just said this, Jaron ENNIS is a better switch hitter than Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, he generally switches, and it's a defensive thing. When Bud gets caught, that's when he wind up switching. Jaron ENNIS is seamless. You know what I mean? He can switch off of the back foot, going left, going right, going forward. That's what makes him so dangerous. He has power in both hands. He's effective in both stances, and he is sharp in both stances. He doesn't lack in one stance, so he has to fall back on the other. No, Boots is nice. You know what I mean? So for y'all coming in, like, this is like, you know what I mean? Like, I really don't do the lives, you know what I mean? But I was like, man, this Super Bowl Sunday, man, I feel like talking some boxing, man. You have some good fights going on. There's a lot of things being said in the boxing world, man. So I said, you know what? Let's go live. You know what I mean? So that's why I went live, just to answer that question, whoever put the comment up. So getting back to that fight, man, if Sean Porter and Boots fight, I mean, Boots is going to stop him. I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I really do. But at the same time, I think Boots, he will stop Sean Porter. He is going to do what Spence did to Sean Porter, catching him with that shot. It's going to be worse because Boots, his footwork is better than Errol Spence. His movement is better than Errol Spence. So therefore, he's going to catch Sean Porter, and he's going to be able to match Sean Porter as Sean Porter tries to pivot and angle and turn and cut off the ring to try to confuse Boots with his footwork, because that's what makes Sean Porter so effective when he fights. His footwork, between his footwork and his offensive output, that's how he catches and he accuses his opponents, you know what I mean, with his footwork and with his offensive flurries. But once you have an opponent that also has great footwork and can, you know what I'm saying, mirror what you're doing. So if you're cutting this way, they can cut that way, you know what I mean, and still be sharp enough to slip off shots, parry, and then counter, which Jaron Boots Ennis can do. He's going to give Sean Porter a lot of problems. And that's going to be tough for Sean Porter. Let's listen.
Use the phrase overrated. I'm basically throwing that at anyone who does not follow the boxing game and has not watched Jaron Ennis since he was in the Golden Gloves as an amateur.
When he lost to Russell.
He lost the Olympic trials to one of the Russell brothers.
Yeah.
And since he's been professional, a lot of people in the boxing game, they don't know about these fighters until other people start talking about them, till there becomes, for the sake of words, a company line, or here's
start to get some notoriety in the sports.
What we all know about Ennis is all true. However, what people say, I am not in full agreement with. People say, I'm in full agreement that he's the next. Full agreement with that. What I'm not in full agreement with is when people say, oh, he's going to wash that fighter. I'm like, hey, this dude's going to be in some very good, great boxing matches. Let those matches happen. Don't just put the stigma of him washing every fighter he gets in the ring with right there in your face. So once a few people say that, now that's what his reputation is that he is next, but I don't think he washes, definitely not.
Now, you heard Sean Porter say he is next, but the issue he has It's with people saying that he is going to wash the top guys in the division. Now, the thing you need to pick out from that is this is what people are saying. This is what people who watched Jaron Ennis fight, people who may have been following this young brother from his amateur career up into his present professional career. This is their opinion of Jaron Boots Ennis as a professional and possibly moving forward fighting the top guys in the sport. Now, you can't hate on people because of their opinion. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, people go say what they want, whether they're right or whether they're wrong. And I ain't got no problem, and Sean Porter shouldn't have a problem with people talking or saying their opinion. The question is, are they right or are they wrong? Now, you just got finished saying he's next. So that means he has the goods in order to compete at a high level with Spence, with Crawford, with Thurman. Mentioning Thurman, you guys already know Keith Thurman was asked once, hey, who is Jaron Boots Ennis? Oh, I don't know. I never heard of the guy. Then Keith Thurman later, I think maybe later on that week or the following week, he went back, supposedly, did his homework, watched some Jaron Boots Ennis fights, and he changed his tune, saying, you know what? Yeah, this guy, he's very charismatic in the ring, highly skilled, this, that, and the third. You guys seen the post, Jaron Ennis said, you know what, Keith Thurman, he's a good name. He's fought some people in the sport. You know what? That'd be a good name for me to fight. And it will be a good name. Jaron Ennis fighting Keith Thurman will be a great, great fight. Jaron Boots Ennis, he beats Thurman. But if Thurman can catch Jaron Boots Ennis, even though Boots does have he does have a chin, Keith Thurman could possibly beat Boots. That's the beauty about boxing. Everybody has a chance to win, whether it's a puncher's chance, somebody has an off night, whatever. Everybody has a chance to win in boxing. Will they win? Who knows? Now, Keith Thurman versus Boots, that'd be a great fight. And Keith Thurman is trying to get the winner of Spence versus Ugas. But at the same time, guess what? You're just coming back into the division. You fought Mario Barrios. You put your hands on Mario Barrios. You bashed his face in, you know what I mean? Had his nose looking broke. But that's a guy coming up in weight. He's not an ironclad, solid welterweight. Just like when Mikey Garcia fought Errol Spence. You can't put your hands on these guys, you know what I mean, beat them up out of there and have bragging rights, especially when they are not full-fledged welterweights. Boots is a full-fledged welterweight, carries the weight very well. And he already said it himself. Once he goes up, once he cleans out the division and becomes undisputed, he's not going to linger around. He's going up to 54, and he's going to do the same thing. He wants to bring the old days and the old ways of boxing back when guys are fighting each other. And that's how it should be. When guys are going head-to-head, when you have the best fighting the best, not just people holding on to belts, paying sanctioning fees, nothing when you're not fighting nobody. No. If you are the top guy in the sport, your fights should generally be easy. If you are not fighting your mandatories, whoever is right up under you, meaning the bottom four, if you haven't fought these guys, you need to be fighting number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, whatever. If you have already done that, then you sit and you wait until somebody notable calls you out and you take the fight. Hopefully it is not a cherry. But for these guys to hold these belts, you look at Gary Russell Jr. As long as Gary Russell has been a champion, he's called people out, whatever. But have you fought the best? Gary Russell could also play that card. Possibly nobody stepped up and wanted to fight him. Okay. But when he fought Mark Magsayo, a lot of people thought that Gary Russell was going to go in there and get rid of Mark Magsayo. And I told people who support my channel, I told everybody, man, because people was putting in the comments, Gary Russell is going to do this, Gary Russell is going to do that. And I try to tell people, don't sleep on Mark Magsayo. Don't do it. He's coming off the knockout of the year. Come on, man. Don't sleep on him. People's like, nah. But I told people, watch after the fight. You come back to the same video, another video, whatever, but you come back and then you leave your comments and be real about it. You know what I'm saying? And nobody never did that. Because, see, I'm going to always stand on what I say. Because despite what people may say or whatever like that, you can listen to whatever. But at the end of the day, you have to have your own opinion. Don't just, you know what I'm saying, follow. Lead by example. You know what I'm saying? Have a mind of your own, as I was raised to, you know what I'm saying, believe and think. Have a mind of your own. Just don't go by what somebody else says. You know what I mean? Listen, that's fine, but never follow. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times people follow behind people who are weak. You know what I mean? So if you following somebody who's weak, what you think that make you? You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to the mental aspect of things. And I told people that, man, don't sleep on Mark McSive. He's coming into that fight. He's coming off the knockout of the year. He's being pretty much groomed to be, I'm not going to say the next Manny Pacquiao, because he doesn't possess the footwork and the hand speed of Manny Pacquiao, but he does have power. He's hungry. And the one thing that I will give Mark McSive, he's improving. He's getting better. You know what I mean? You see him from his last fight, the knockout of the year. He was losing that fight, but he came back, caught his opponent with a shot, knocked him out, got him up out of there, came back, fought Gary Russell Jr., WBC champion, and he beat him. After the fight, Gary Russell Jr. was talking about he had issues, you know what I'm saying? Once you start hearing fighters talking about issues and all that leading up to the fight, you heard Gary Russell, he was talking about his family situation. Pause for a second, salute and blessings to his father, you know what I mean? Salute and blessings to his family, because they have went through a lot, you know what I mean? Could still be going through a lot. But at the same time, you're a professional fighter and you was out of the game for a minute. So if you had an injury, Gary Russell Jr. had enough time to get surgery, to get his shoulder, his arm, whatever fixed going into his next fight. He could have been 100%. He didn't do that. That's on Gary Russell. Mark McSive, he did what he was supposed to do. He went in there for the great fight with the great champion, because Gary Russell is still nice. And if he goes back, get that surgery, get his body together, Gary Russell can still come back and have great fights before he retires. If he chooses to do so, we're going to have to see. But now, wrapping this up, if Jaron Ennis faces Sean Porter, that's going to be a great fight. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think,
honestly, he's a problem, and he might beat all four of those top guys.
Honestly, he's a problem. He may beat all four of those top guys. This is Sean Porter talking about Jaron Ennis. Now, there again, I don't see Sean Porter facing this guy. You just got finished saying yourself, he can knock off the top guys in the division. So do you think you're going to, quote unquote, come out of retirement now and fight the guy who can potentially and has the tools and skills and ability to defeat the top guys in the division? You know, you're no longer talking about somebody at the bottom of the top 10. No. Jaron Ennis is now ranked, depending upon what sanctioned body you want to look at, he's now ranked as number 3 to 4 to number 5. You know what I mean? So it's like Jaron Ennis, quote unquote, pound for pound at this time in the sport, he's one of the top guys in the division. He just doesn't have a belt. Now, once he gets a strap, watch how his equity is going to go up. You know what I mean? And the good thing I like about Boots is he's just not going to hold on to the belt and start cherry picking. He's going to have that belt and set up the next biggest fight after the next biggest fight. And he has the skill, potential, the will, the determination to reign in the welterweight division. So before we wrap this up, let's hear a couple more words from Sean Porter before we get up out of here.
Everybody that just said, oh yeah, he's watching him.
Okay, while that's lagging and dragging and trying to get back, you know what I mean? Look, Sean Porter, Kenny Porter, I don't know if Kenny Porter is going to allow Sean Porter to come back to fight somebody like Jaron Ennis. I believe Kenny Porter, he
I can
knew.
rock with that.
Okay, we back.
I know you had to have seen the reply tweet that he sent to you, right?
Oh, absolutely. It was a little too late. I didn't give it, so I don't give a damn about my social media. And when I saw,
See, I don't have a computer set up, so I can't put that post from Jaron Boots Ennis in the live as we're talking. But if any of you guys are true fight fans and you follow the sport, especially these two competitors, you guys have seen the tweet already when Sean Porter made the comments about Jaron Boots Ennis being overrated. You've seen a rebuttal from Jaron Boots Ennis. Long story short, to make a nice paragraph short and sweet, Boots said, you know what, come out of retirement and fight me.
I had nothing to say to it. But then I have this video of my son wearing my brand, and I said, hey, maybe we should just post this and say shopseanporter.com, because I know that everybody's looking at both of our accounts right now, and it's kind of how I feel about his response. If there was no Jaron Ennis ever, Sean Porter still would have retired November 22nd was the fight? November 20th? The 20th or the 22nd?
Let's see, the specific date was 11/20/2021.
Oh, 21. Yeah. So Sean 20. Yeah, so 20. That's Showtime.
I don't agree with that. I don't think that Sean Porter he would have retired. I think he retired because he knows that the top guys in the division, he doesn't have a chance of beating. That's number one. Number two, the upcoming young lions in the division also have the tools to give him not only a difficult fight, but to possibly knock him out and get him up out of there.
And I'm just kind of sick of hearing it. That's kind of where it came from. I was just kind of I had a moment.
Yeah.
He calls that having a moment.
What would you tell a person? Like, how's that interaction gonna go?
I'm hoping to get something from him soon. There's really no beef. He's not a beef guy. He's not a beef guy. He reminds me a lot of Terrence Crawford, where Terrence just wants to do his job. He doesn't really want to talk about it. He doesn't really care to sell a fight. He allows his actions to speak for themselves.
Yeah, that's when because you're doing the podcasting and then you're also doing the analyst stuff. It's different on the other side because you're forced to give your opinions, and sometimes those opinions, like with this, might not be as taken to some fans. It is a little different getting that sort of criticism sometimes.
When I first started the Inside PBC Boxing Show, we recorded all of our episodes, and it was like we would do a rehearsal, and here's what we're going to talk about, and it was kind of like, I gotta talk about that guy, I gotta talk about that guy, and initially I would start to kind of fabricate everything into what I feel people.
Okay, now they're going off into loose rhetoric, man. So we gonna wrap this up, man. Talk as you stand up as your boy. Now, Ugas, Spence, great fight. A lot more to talk about as this fight continues to build up momentum until fight day. But moving forward, once Spence is gone, once Terrence Crawford is gone, the welterweight division with the upcoming stars, Jaron Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, Conor Benn, Stanionis, like the new blood coming up in the division, the welterweight division is going to be on fire for years and years to come. But who will be the new reigning champion and competitor in the division besides Crawford, Spence? Because Ugas, like I said, he's the WBA champion, but he's never held that top spot. The top spot has always been acclimated around Crawford and Spence. Now, who's going to take over once they leave? Right now, the one that everybody think there's going to be that guy, there's going to be that star, there's going to be that name, it's possibly Jaron Boots Ennis, And does he have the tools? Does he have the ability? Does he have what it takes in order to be at that spot and hold that spot down? My humble opinion, he does. Will it happen? I can't wait to see. So we're going to wrap this up, guys, man. Y'all stay blessed, stay humble, stay motivated, man. Everybody that tuned in, man, I appreciate y'all. You know what I'm saying? More to come, like I said. Generally don't do lives. I do my uploads, you know what I mean? I do my shorts, you know what I mean? Appreciate you guys' love and all the supports for both aspects of and from the channel. But like I said, I'm gonna start trying to, you know what I mean, do more lives, man, getting up out there doing more lives, you know what I mean? So you know what I'm saying, ride with your boy. I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one, man.